Pete, how you doing, man?
Good to see you. Yeah.
Let's go inside.
All right. Hey there, welcome to DIY Projects with Pete. This weekend I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee with my buddy Brad from the Fix This, Build That YouTube channel. Link in the description below. This weekend we built a couple different projects. Brad, what did we build together?
Yeah, so we built the concrete top outdoor coffee table, side table, and you can make this whole thing out of 2 cedar 2x4s and a bag of concrete. Very easy build.
I love this. I love how it turned out. And we also did this accent light. It's got a concrete base, a walnut side, and an Edison light bulb. 2 great projects, and I had a blast building with you here in Tennessee, Brad.
It was awesome to have you, Pete. Thanks for coming.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with this project.
The first step was to draw out our design, and Brad had the idea to do sort of a Jenga-style walnut shade, and I, of course, thought concrete would tie in well for the base. So Brad had a shelf full of walnut. We picked through it and found some of the best boards to use for our project. The boards all needed to be planed down to the correct thickness, so we ran each of the boards through the planer a couple of times. And, you know, having 2 of us working on the project definitely made a lot of the steps go by quickly, and it seemed like things were a lot easier, actually. You know, I think it's just nice to have a second set of hands or a helper whenever you're working on projects. So we both normally actually build a lot of our projects on our own, so collaborating was really a lot of fun. The next step in preparing the walnut was to run it through the joiner, and we did this for each of the boards prior to taking it over to the table saw. Before making those next cuts, Brad said we needed to do a little shop maintenance, and he brought up a good point that it's a good idea to clean your table saw blade from time to time by using a cleaning solution and then brushing each blade tooth. Next, we cut each walnut board down to the proper width on the table saw, and make sure when you're doing this that you're using push blocks so that you safely cut each board, and while you're at it, always have your eye protection and hearing protection as well. Now, there's a few that need to be cut, so take your time and just enjoy the process. And once they were all cut, we looked over the boards to make sure they looked good before cutting the lengths on the miter saw. There were 3 different size blocks for this project, so we did make a jig that helped us cut each block length efficiently. We started by cutting the longest blocks and then finished with the shortest. And for more information and the measurements for this project, check out DIYpete.com/walnut lamp. Now that the blocks are all cut, go ahead and sand the ends by hand with some 220 grit sandpaper. We're basically removing any rough edges you might have on the corners prior to assembling. To help make the assembly process easier, we made a jig out of a few strips of scrap wood and some plywood. Now, Brad's all about making jigs for just about everything, which is awesome. It takes a little bit more time to build a jig, but they typically make the job easier and much more efficient. Then we started piecing the blocks in the pattern within the jig. We came up with a layout we thought looked good and then built each side one at a time. You'll need to plan out each side to ensure the finger joints line up correctly so everything pieces together in the long run. Now, once the correct pattern is laid out, you can apply a quick setting glue to attach each block to each other. Use that jig to help keep the block square, and so you know, there's definitely more than one way to assemble this lamp, so if you have a better way or if you want to try another method, by all means, go ahead. This is simply what we chose to do, and it worked out for us, but go ahead and do whatever works best for you. Next, we dry fit a couple of the sides together to see how everything matched up, and once we determined it was all going to work as planned, we got some wood glue out and began to butter up those connection points with some wood glue. Brad had some silicone brushes that we used to apply the glue, which worked great, and I'm actually going to order a set when I get a chance because they work well, plus they're super easy to clean since you can just let the glue dry on them and then pick it out or peel it out later. We used a rubber mallet to lightly tap the sides in place, and then used clamps to bring them together if some of the joints aren't completely tight. Once the corners were connected, we used a bunch of small clamps to help secure those joints while they dried. And, at this time you can use a damp cloth to remove any excess glue if you need to. Repeat the process with the other 2 sides. Apply glue to the blocks as needed, and then slowly piece together the sides. Wipe away excess glue, and then use the clamps to pull the corners tight and to secure them in place while they dry. Remove the clamps for each side once the glue is dried, and then you'll be able to attach the 2 halves together. Apply wood glue to the connection points similar to in previous steps, and then slowly piece the sides together. We used the clamps to move the blocks in place and to help line everything up, and we worked our way around each side and adjusted each connection as needed. Now, once everything is in place, go ahead and secure things with clamps while that wood glue dries. After the wood glue is dried, go ahead and remove the clamps, and then trace around the base of the walnut shade to determine the dimensions for that concrete base. The base is going to line up on all 4 sides to the walnut, and so cut a 2-inch wide strip of melamine on a table saw, and then cut it down to the dimensions to form a square that's going to match the walnut shade. Then attach the strips to the base by pre-drilling with a countersink bit and then inserting 2-inch screws from the top of each side strip. Next, find the center of the box and then drill a shallow hole that's about the same diameter as a pencil. We're actually going to make a knockout for the lamp hardware to feed through by cutting a pencil down in length, wrapping it with some duct tape, and then putting the pencil in the shallow hole to help keep it in place. Lastly, we'll vacuum the square mold out before mixing up any concrete. For this project, we're using a rapid setting concrete mix so we can tackle the project all in one day. The rapid set concrete for a project this size will actually cure and be ready to pull out of the mold in about 20 minutes, which is crazy, but trust me, it works that way. But feel free to use any concrete mix you have laying around the garage. Just read the instructions for curing times. Add water to get the concrete to about an oatmeal-like consistency, and then pack the concrete into the mold. Use your fingers to get it into all the corners and the sides, and fill up the mold until it's completely full. Once the mold is full, go ahead and level it out as best as possible, and then vibrate the concrete to remove air pockets. You can actually lift the work surface up and down and shake it similar to what I'm doing, and then I'd recommend tapping the sides with a mallet or using an orbital sander to vibrate the sides. Lastly, use a trowel to smooth out the concrete and to level things out a little bit more. Then use a wood scrap to carve a channel in the concrete for the cord and a channel around the hole in the center so there's a recessed area for that lamp hardware. While the concrete was curing, Brad got started on the finish work for the walnut shade. He used the oscillating belt sander first to sand down a couple of the blocks that didn't line up 100% perfect. And once those were sanded, he took the lampshade outside and went around all 4 sides with an orbital sander and some 220 grit sandpaper. Once the sanding was done, Brad applied a spray lacquer to the walnut. This was a quick and easy way to finish this piece, especially with all those nooks and crannies to get the sealer in. And let the sealer dry once you got that first coat done, and then add a second coat. Next, we'll remove the concrete from the mold, and we'll do that by undoing the screws and removing one sidewall at a time. Once that's done, pull the concrete piece away from the base and check out how it looks. You'll want to use a sanding block to go over the edges a bit and to smooth out any other rough areas. Then it's time to lightly tap the knockout and pull it out to release it from the concrete. Now, I'd normally spend a lot more time finishing concrete if it was a counter or a table, but this concrete block actually turned out really nice just the way it did, and I like the organic look of the couple small voids in the concrete. We did use a spray sealer on the concrete and did a couple coats to seal it. Next, we installed the lamp hardware, and I cut the hollow threaded rod down with a cutoff blade on a Dremel tool so the light bulb would sit just a little bit lower. Then you'll want to feed the wire through the threaded rod, cinch the threaded rod in place from the top and bottom side of the concrete with the nuts that come in the kit, and then connect the wires to the socket, and finally thread the bulb socket onto the threaded rod. Read the directions in your lamp kit to make sure everything goes together correctly in your project. We added a few felt pads to the underside of the concrete and then dry fit everything in place. I'd recommend connecting the wood to the concrete with silicone once it's done. Alright, I hope you enjoyed checking out the project and collaboration, and if you did, please give the video a thumbs up, and definitely go subscribe and check out Brad from Fix This Build That's YouTube channel, and check out the video we did together on how to make outdoor concrete side tables. I think you'll enjoy it. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and
Cheers from Nashville!
Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who stopped out for our Nashville DIY meetup. It was awesome to get to meet you all and hear about your projects, so keep up the good work and keep in touch.